Hello dearies, welcome to the craft kitchen and another experiment. Yes. So for the longest time I wanted to experiment with these transparency sheets, you know, for overhead projectors. I wanted to know if my photo printer could handle them. There are also those you can buy for laser printer. But yeah, since my laser printer prints only black and white, I wanted to try this with my inkjet because I really like this sepia look here. And yeah, well, in Germany you pay about 20 euros for a pack of 25 transparency sheets for inkjet printers, and this was really too expensive to pay just for an experiment where I don't know, would have used like one sheet and the rest I would have used as acetate for pockets maybe. So last week I went thrifting here in our town. Our thrift shop is not as big as those in the Netherlands, but you still can find some treasures there. And I found a real treasure. So this is a pack of 50 transparency film sheets. It has been opened at some point, but there are still 42 sheets left. Well, 41. And I just paid, just look at this, 80 euro cents for 42 sheets. This is just great. So these are, I don't want to unpack this. Yeah, on the surface they are a bit rough, like rough paper, for example. But on the other side, on the back side of this, I explain in a minute, they are really more like, I don't know, sandpaper. And this is because in the 80s and 90s, the overhead projectors didn't have that good of a lighting to project your film, so they needed something, yeah, to kind of like break the light. And this is why the back is very rough. So I can already say this package is from the 80s or 90s. And also, I don't know why this all is written in English here. Well, it's also written in French, Spanish and German. Either this didn't come from a German company reselling Hewlett Packard, or this was just the way Hewlett Packard sold their papers in Germany in the 80s and 90s. Really, I don't remember. I didn't care that much then, because when you needed it, you bought it. And no, I didn't need this. My teachers always needed this. I don't know if some of you remember. Go and get the overhead. So, yeah. I experimented the tiniest bit with my inkjet printer, because, yeah, on the package it says inkjet. So this means if you put this into a laser printer, it probably will melt. I didn't try it. And no, I didn't have to tape the sheet to the paper. I just taped it down so it will stay here on my white sheet. Because of this paper edge, it's very easy to get it into your printer, so your printer can grab it. Well, at least my printer can. Because first of all, I do have a Hewlett Packard printer, but not as old. So, and when I bought these transparency films, I already knew my printer doesn't have a film setting, transparency setting. So I had to experiment with different settings. And of course, the first I tried, yeah, was the photo print, because I wanted to have a clear print, of course, and readable words down here. Well, these are 4 different settings. And you can read the words on all 4 settings without a problem. You know what? I guess I have to stand up to see what my camera is showing you, because there's a bit of a glance from the angle where I look at this. So, the table is still in sitting position and I'm standing over my camera so I can see what I'm showing you, and there you go. So this first setting Come on. Focus. Yes. Yeah, I tried the photo print, and since my printer is a photo printer, yeah, it used very much ink. So this is not the best print. And also, when just printing photo on standard photo paper, using the photo setting for standard photo paper, it just turned out like black and white. There's a bit ivory in there, but no, it's just a hint of ivory. No. And this setting, oh my gosh. My printer used so much ink. This was the photo setting for shiny paper, I guess. No, as you can see, it's readable. You know, these are always great. But when it comes to backgrounds, the printer just uses too much ink. So this is all very spotted. So, no. Yeah, and then I tried this one. This was just a everyday print setting, but on shiny paper. So I chose the shiny paper in the settings. Yeah, again, the writing is perfectly readable there. But again, spotty and way too much ink. It's, yeah, really too much yellow, I'd say. And then, and this surprised me very much, I used just the fast print setting, and this is kind of like perfect. There. The colors are right. And yeah, the print is really neat. Well, I have to press down the transparency film to my paper so you can see how neat it is, because when I lift this up a bit, just a bit, the print seems a bit fuzzy, but this is only because of the shadow underneath, the shadow on the paper. So when I press this down to my paper, there you go. So this was the first part of the experiment, of course. And to me, it seems to be clear that with every printer, you have to make some test prints, just change the settings, or maybe the color saturation of your picture before you get what you want on your paper. And it's always good to not just use any paper, but to use the paper you want to use in the end. Yeah, I know. I feel the same like most of you. This seems to be sort of a waste. But, you know, experimenting is to waste. I also had to learn this, and I just talked about this with my sister friend. It's sometimes really hard. And you feel very sorry for every piece that's wasted, but in the end you will have a result that is, either close to what you wanted to achieve or really what you wanted to have in the end. Well, I think I already know what's going to happen when I'm using alcohol inks on here, because this is inkjet ink, hence the name. And this ink is water soluble, and of course alcohol will affect it too. And you know what? This is really interesting. I don't know why this happened. Maybe you can see this. It's turning from black and white, or more grayish. Yeah, like I told you, the slightest hint of ivory in here, to pink. So I don't know, the magenta ink seems to separate on this print. Wow. So this, of course, is one of the effects when splattering water on inkjet ink, but there wasn't any water. Maybe it's just my fingers. I have no idea how this has happened. Interesting. So another part of the experiment, I guess. I have to figure out how I did this. So yeah, like I told you, I already think, I know that the ink I printed these with will dissolve with alcohol, but I'm gonna be trying it anyway because I want to see what effect it will create. Well, I guess I probably should replace the masking tape here next to me at my table because, yeah, I managed to get it off, but it's still sticking here on my film, and even the front side of my tape is sticky. It's really old. So, yeah, because I don't want to experiment with them all at once, I'm going to cut these into single pictures. And maybe it would have been smart, now that I know the setting I have to use to print like 3 or 4 pictures here to the bottom of the sheet as well. So now I have a piece of acetate to use for, yeah, pockets or text or whatnot. Oh yes, I didn't mention this before, so I do have these here. When I told my printer, print this, I also set my printer to borderless because I just wanted to have a tiny border, but because of the dimensions, they are still A4, but yeah, because this is transparency film and slidey, the printer will pull this in a bit slower. Of course, the transportation of the rolls when printing on it will work perfectly because they are not that hardly pressed together by design. But when the printer pulls in the paper, it's really with much pressure. So borderless wasn't a good idea either. But that's part of the experiment, is it? So let's see, this is one of the good ones, as well as this and this. So I'm gonna be starting, yeah, with these very saturated prints of my picture. So there's much ink on them. And later I'm gonna be using one of those, these kind of like, yeah, to me, perfect prints. And here I do have my collection of alcohol inks. So these are all homemade, just from felt tip pens, you know, like maybe Sharpie. They aren't that vibrantly colored because, I don't know, maybe I used too much alcohol or the pigments in the felt tip pens haven't been enough. I have no idea, but I still can use them to, yeah, give a hint of color to pieces I can't color otherwise. And this is the only store-bought alcohol ink I own. This is Octopus, I guess. Yeah, and I really, really like this color. You have seen the hue of this alcohol ink on my homemade aged tape I've used for the signatures in the Winter Lights journal. And also when you do want a, yeah, slightly rusty aged effect on some metal pieces, I just use this color. Just great. So I'm gonna be starting with my homemade colors. This is kind of sepia. Yeah, I know it's an orange bottle. I don't care. Just dripping some on here. And then let's see what's going to happen to the ink on the print. I have to move this aside. Well, I want to grab it carefully so I don't spill everything on my mat. So I let it run the tiniest bit over the picture, over the print. And, ooh, This is really a surprise to me. Wow. So for now it looks like the printer ink just stays. Wow. I really didn't expect that. So I'm gonna be letting this dry. So this is my homemade alcohol ink. And for this one, no, let's use the same. I forgot to clean the lid before closing it. The reason I couldn't open the lid of this is not because of the alcohol. Maybe the alcohol just kind of like dissolved the plastic. No, this ink, this alcohol ink, is highly pigmented, and when the alcohol dries you do have the pigments on the lid, so in the lid and here on the bottle cap. Yes. No, I'm not getting paid for this to say. I just really like this alcohol ink. So let's see. Put some drops on here. Let's see what's going to happen. If I just run this a bit over the print. And it's also a good idea to really experiment with everything you might want to use on your prints, papers, whatever. So again, you'll have waste, but not as much as if you just go ahead and do it and then you have to throw away everything. Maybe a whole signature page, for example. I would never experiment with things like this in a finished journal and just hope I can cover perhaps some boo-boos. So I'm going to let this dry and I'm going to clean this for sure. So this is dry, and I also did the same thing I did to this one, to the other two. So this is an everyday print, standard setting. Chosen paper was glossy paper, and this one is an everyday print, fast print, also glossy paper. And like I've shown you, the background was all spotted and fuzzy. Another funny thing I just found out, I wanted to remove the alcohol ink on my thumb, well, under my thumbnail to be exact. This happens when not using gloves for playing with alcohol ink. So we have to go shopping later, and I surely will wear some gloves. It is cold enough for this. So I just touched the photo with my alcohol wipe, the tiniest bit, and as you can see there, the color just came off. So this didn't happen with the alcohol ink just dripping it on there, but when I wiped this off, everywhere I spilled the alcohol ink, there's still the print underneath. I have to be a bit careful because I wrote on them with alcohol markers, so I later will know. You rub off the blue, yellow and black ink, and what stays on there is the magenta ink. That's just wow. So let's see what happens with the other ones. Same here. Now with this one, there's a bit more yellow left, but this really looks nice. I like it. This really looks worn. So if you print it with this setting on my printer, on this film, you get a beautiful color. I'm going to let this dry. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is nice. So this also, let's see what happens. Well, I guess I don't have that much room for experimenting with this print because my printer printed on the edge here. Here again I do have this brownish sepia tone. This is just wow. This is more orange than this. I really like it. So of course I can remove here the alcohol ink at any point, of course, and underneath there will be a bit of the print, the original print. There you go. See, so if you rub this with alcohol ink, the film gets clear again. Not even the faint print underneath will stay. Well, that's interesting. So rubbing on this will cause ink removal. Okay, I see. Is this also happening to this? Let's see. Let's take this part. Yeah, when I rub the alcohol off, I get a clear film, and there where has not been some alcohol ink, still is a bit of the print left. That's really interesting. And I see. You can't see this. This is too bad. When I'm looking at this in the right angle, I can see there's a thin film on top. So either this film is the printer ink and the alcohol ink mixed together, or it is kind of like the protection surface for the transparency film, or yeah, more of the, not protection surface, more of the rough surface itself on here on the film. Yes, this feels very smooth. Yay! Okay, so to get the effect of this one, there's a coat on this transparency film, like maybe you would use matte medium on glossy paper so you can actually write on it. So here is a coating on the transparency film so that the inkjet printer ink actually can stay on this. I haven't tried water yet. Well, the coating on photo paper, if it's glossy or matte paper, doesn't matter, protects your photos from getting washed off when just splattering maybe some water on here, or coffee on your photo paper, or water or coffee. But if you rub them, these photo paper prints with water, the ink, so the coating, will come off too. So first let's see what's going to happen if I rub this here somewhere. For this I have to get another alcohol wipe. Let's see. This is quite interesting. Yeah, I'm rubbing really hard. You wouldn't do this with your prints, but this is just an experiment. So I'm actually removing the coating with the alcohol wipe on here. Aha. Okay. And it seems, I don't know, maybe rubbing less. No. If you just rub softly on the alcohol ink, it doesn't come off that much. So yeah, you have to be really brutal to get the coating and the alcohol ink off. And that's very interesting. You know, this looks like there are some crackles in there. Well, that's also interesting. Just rub off the coating and color it with some alcohol ink. This also could look nice. And now I wonder what happens if I put my alcohol ink on my dauber. This is just a piece of felt glued to a yarn spool, and kind of like try to distress my photos. And for this I'm going to be using another one of the yeah, good prints, let's say. I like those experiments. You always find out new things. So let's say I'm going to distress this, and for this I do have to, yeah, press the tiniest bit harder, of course. This is a really dark color, I wouldn't use it for this. I guess I would try and thin it down with a bit of rubbing alcohol. Let's go over this completely and then let's see if we can rub it off. So yeah, the photo and the writing is still intact. So I've just rubbed softly and I can already feel that the alcohol ink is kind of like, yes, softening the coating on the transparency film. I don't know if you can see this. Let me grab my paper. It seems that at this spot I've been rubbing a bit harder because this is, yeah, nearly clear now. But yeah, the other parts of this picture are still intact. Yeah, with her, you never can tell on transparency if she's looking at you or if she's looking to the left side. To me, she's a bit scary. So, yeah, this is dry now. No more stickiness here. And I really like the fact that the coating on the transparency film is not that sensitive. Because, yeah, you really have to rub hard to get it off. I could try this for the back as well. I guess there's also a coating on there. It's very probable. I really, really like this. So now let's see what will happen if we use Crackle Paste or Crackle Paint. These are my new toys. I just got them on sale. And I really, really, really want to try them. So for the Crackle Paint, I'm hoping this will actually stay translucent. So transparent. Yeah, it's more of translucency. And with this one, I really would like the effect of getting this discolored by the ink on here. For this, I'm going to be using just my finger, I guess. Let's see. Oh no. I want this to crackle, and if, oh yeah, this will work. So let's see. There's no yellow at my finger yet. And I'm gonna be using my palette knife at this corner, also with the opaque, if I can find it. So let's try and make this a bit more flat here, a bit more even, also a thick layer, but an even layer. Oh! If I don't get stuck, I'll get an even layer, finally. Ah! I get stuck at the coating of the paper with the palette knife. Like I told you, this is very rough. So, and for the corners down here, I'm going to be using the translucent Crackle Paint. Let's see. Also very thick. I like it. And on this side I'm gonna be using my palette knife, just to have a more or less even layer. Now I let this dry. Like I told you, this will take some time, but well, okay. The paste, the opaque paste is already drying. I have to practice using the Crackle paint because this is really, this is not smooth. I could have used my finger and just smeared it over there. I really have to practice this, but it's just an experiment for now, so let's see. Now, as you can see, my texture paste and paint are dry, and this, yeah, I should have expected this effect, but I wasn't thinking of it. Of course, the Crackle paste peeled off, because most pastes are made of, yeah, kind of like chalk, or there you can see, maybe bound with some acrylics, so of course it comes off. Well, it looks really interesting, you know, this fringed edge here where it's a bit thinner. Yeah, too bad it's coming off. And let me take this a bit nearer. I have to press it down. As you can see, the crackles of the, okay, then if you want to go, then go. The crackles of the Crackle paint are really nice, but they are tiny. And yeah, I remembered this actually was where I bought the Ranger Crackle paint, because I wanted to have small crackles on my projects. Well, they are really tiny. Maybe it still was not enough on here to build thick crackles, but the paint actually stays on. I have no idea what will happen if you, what are you? If you use the translucent Crackle paste, if this will stay on here. I guess it's kind of like the same like the paint, but a bit thicker. So no, I don't have this, but I really like the effect of the Crackle paint on here. And another surprise, wow, when I was testing my standard method using glue and acrylic paint, in this case I used acrylic varnish to get my crackles on here. There you can see them. Again, a bit like cracked paint on wood. Yeah, my glue is water-based, as well as my acrylic varnish, of course. And maybe you can see this. When the water touched the picture, the ink came off. So, yes, for water, no for alcohol ink. I don't quite understand it yet, but yeah, this is what happened. Same here, I've used a thinner layer of glue and acrylic varnish. This was too thin, it didn't crack that much. 1 or 2 cracks here and there, but you can see the ink is smudged here. Let me show you. I do have, let's say, fresh picture here. So when I use my brush with a bit of water, this is really surprising. It's still not clear to me how this could happen. So when I use a bit of water there, I'm just removing the ink. Funny thing is, this doesn't happen to your pictures when you're printing them on photo paper. So, you know, I gassed the coating on this transparency film. might be similar to what they use on the photo paper, but it is not. So let me see what happens when I spray. Too funny, really. So let this sit for a moment, and then I'm gonna be taking parts off with a kitchen towel here. Yeah, the ink comes off, as you can see here, and the rest I just let the picture, the transparency picture, sit there and let it air dry, and then I'll come back to you. Yeah, my water droplets have air dried, and this is the outcome. I really like it. I really like it. So I guess you already know, besides this effect, I'm actually going to use all of them to age or whatever do with my photographs. But like I told you, I've been using this really old transparency film for overhead projectors. I really can't say if the newer ones will work the same like this does. It's very likely the quality has changed until today because, yeah, like I told you, the lighting wasn't that good. Of course, the ink for the printers was different then. And I guess they also changed the coating on the transparency film, not only because the refraction has to be different today because most of the time we're using LED light, but also because maybe the chemical compounds are far more developed today. So maybe you want to give this a try, this experiment, with maybe the same transparency film. Maybe you have something somewhere laying about in your garage or a drawer in the office. Anyway, if you're using different transparency film to test the print quality of your own printer, and this is the next thing, not only is the ink from brand to brand very different, also it is very different from series to series of only one brand. So if you want to give it a try and test how your prints will look on transparency film, any kind of transparency film, coated or not, there are some things you should consider. So first, you have to make sure your printer does work with the transparency film, of course. Then you want to find out the setting of your printer to get an image you're satisfied with. Then maybe you want to check, is the transparency film coated or not? Yeah, like you have seen in my little experiment, you can find this out by using alcohol ink, water, maybe even oil, dripping, rubbing harder, brushing, whatever on your transparency film. With this method, you also can find out if your ink will stay on the transparency film, because you have a bit of fat and moisture on your fingers always, so it is not fun if the tiniest bit of water causes the image to fade just by touching it. And then, if you want to give your image a really grunged up look, for example, you want to test which of your mixed media materials stays on the transparency film. Like I told you, this was to be expected, but I didn't think of it. Also, to me it was clear this would stay, this Crackle paint here, but I wasn't sure if this would catch the ink of the photo, maybe even the alcohol ink underneath, because the paint was dissolving the ink and with it the alcohol ink on it. And for my glue, I knew it would stay on here because it is bookbinding glue. And I also was very sure that my, where is it? There. That my acrylic varnish, my clear matte varnish, would stay on the transparency film as well as build crackles. But I didn't know that the glue as well as my varnish would dissolve the ink of my photo. And with the ink, of course, some of the alcohol ink. What we also found out, can I show you this? Somewhere, I guess, yeah, here, no. You can't really see it anymore because I've thrown on so much materials on here. During the video, we found out that when rubbing on the photo, oh yeah, here you can see it still. When rubbing on the photo, on the print, with the tiniest bit of alcohol, you first dissolve the printer ink, and a bit of this will stay actually. Mostly the magenta, of course. And after this, when rubbing harder, like here, you will remove the coating. So this might also be a nice effect, just to print it and to make it more waterproof. In my case, just very slightly rub the printing so that just the magenta and a bit of yellow will stay on here, and I will have a real, yeah, dark orangey sepia look later. What I just realized is my little droplets on here are drying, are dry by now, and actually the magenta in my print is getting more and more visible. So dearies, now you've seen how to take on these experiments, and I hope I could inspire you to make some of your own, just to find out what else you can do with all your paints and pastes and colors and glues and whatnot. And I'm actually very happy this experiment doesn't have a real conclusion, because this is what happens all the time when you go on and just experiment with, let's say, materials you haven't used together yet or that are new to you. Now dearies, thanks for watching. Keep experimenting, stay crafty and be excellent to each other. Till next time, bye!